I just want to start this off by saying a huge thank you because the whole never stop hiring, never stop recruiting philosophy that you talk about has completely changed my mindset in terms of business and just the way I've been going about my business these past couple weeks. So I really appreciate the all the value you share. I know that mindset was super helpful in your entrepreneurial journey, but what are like some other mindset shifts or realizations you've had that really contributed to your success?
Well, thanks for having me on, Sam. What mindsets or realizations have contributed to my success? Man, we could do a whole podcast just on that. I think the biggest mindset shift that I've had was going to an event where I was the brokest person in the room.
Yeah.
This was 2.5, 3 years ago. I was making $0 a month. My buddy calls me. He says, dude, you got to go to this event. Joel Kaplan's having an event in Mexico. It's going to be a ton of seven-figure agency owners. I was making $0 a month. I was 19 years old. I'd never even left the country when he called me. And I said, all right, I'm going to go. So I go to the event. I went to my first club. We went skydiving. We did all these crazy things. But most importantly, Samuel, I met people that were no smarter than I was, that were making significantly more amounts of money than I was. And so it just clicked for me. What do these guys have that I don't? They believe that it's possible and they take the actions every day that reflect those beliefs. Right? Aristotle has this quote. I was listening to a podcast about Steve Jobs earlier. Steve Jobs' favorite quote, he had a lot of good quotes, but his favorite quote was, we are what we repeatedly do. So he said excellence is a habit, right? We are what we repeatedly do. So I realized these people that I met, they believed it was possible, and then they did the things consistently that I wasn't doing. And that's what they became. They became seven-figure agency owners. They became millionaires because they were repeatedly doing the right things day in and day out, despite how they felt that led them to those outcomes. So that's one that comes to mind. I could share more, but I'd say that's probably the biggest one I had.
For sure, like being in the right environment is life changing, and
Yeah.
especially being around people who are doing better than you. I think it's such a humbling experience because I know that you found some good success with SMMA when you were 17, like still in high school, and I find when you're so young, doing that well, you're kind of around people who just like aren't doing similar things. You get a little bit of like an kind of like an ego, and I think having that ego, it's like it'll hold you back long term. So it's just good to like be around people who are doing better, to kind of put that ego to the side.
Yeah,
Something that, yeah.
I think it's a balance. I've thought about ego a lot, and I think lack of ego has actually hurt me more than ego has in a weird way.
Oh yeah.
And it's interesting, another Steve Jobs quote. I don't know if it's Steve Jobs actually, but I heard the other day, small egos don't build big companies. And I think that's a really interesting thing to think about. These people who build great companies usually think they are capable of achieving great things because they do have some sort of great or large ego. So
Yeah.
I find that to be interesting. Now, the problem is not letting it get out of control, because cockiness is when your view of yourself is distorted from what you're actually capable of. Confidence is when your view of yourself is in line with what you are capable of. And then self-consciousness, or being self-conscious, or being an overthinker, or whatever, being anxious, is usually not thinking you're capable of something you actually are. And so it's like, if you get to choose from those, which would you rather have? To not think you're capable of things you are capable of, or to think you're capable of things you're not? I'd rather think I'm
Yeah.
capable of things I'm not capable of than not think I'm capable of things that I am. So ego's not good by any means in the sense of it being overwhelming and controlling somebody. but it is a positive in the sense of getting you in a spot where you believe you can achieve great things, and so thus you set out to try to do great things. Small egos don't build big companies, so I just wanted to add that in.
I see what you're saying, and I guess it's one of those things. It might not really be true, but it's still useful. It's still like help you out.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So one part of your story that I can honestly really relate to is the lack of self-esteem you have. Um, and and like I know that was such a huge problem for me in my life, but now I see it as probably the best thing that ever happened to me because that gave me the drive to like be successful, like do great things. So, like, how is that the best thing that ever happened to you? And like, what are some of the good things that kind of came out of that?
It's cutting a little bit in and out. Did you say what's the best thing that ever happened to me?
N- why was like why would
Why was it the
having
best thing that ever happened to
self
me?
yeah, like what are some good
Okay.
things that came out of that?
Yeah, I used to think about the trauma that I went through and the dark years that I went through and the sadness and the anxiety. And I used to think, when I was in the moment, it was 3 years in a row, 3 years straight, just of complete darkness almost every day. And then there were years leading up to that were very painful as well. But when I think about those 3 years, when I was in it, it felt like the end of the world. Like it felt like death. Like I should just end it, right? But looking back, I realized so many incredible synchronicities came from that. Number one, compassion for other people. I would not care about other people as much as I do now if I didn't go through that shit. I've found a lot of entrepreneurs make a lot of money, but they don't actually give a shit about people. It's because they haven't been punched in the face. It's hard to look at somebody who's been beaten and care when you've never even been scratched, right? So, compassion for other people, it humbled me. That's why I said I think lack of ego has affected me more because if anything, my problem with ego is right. We mentioned there's up here, you think you're capable of things you're not. There's here, you're in line, and then there's here, you think you're
Yeah.
not capable of things you are. If anything, I've been here and it's held me back. But it's prevented me from becoming an egomaniac. It's prevented me from becoming a narcissist. It's prevented me from because like a lot of these guys who make content are like they act like they're gods. It's like,
Yeah.
bro, I pray that that never happens to me because it's so foolish. It's so foolish, bro. Nobody's gonna remember you. None of this is gonna matter in 1,000 years. You're a joke. Your life is a joke. You're a piece of dust. But you get to glorify God in what you do, so do the best you possibly can. Like that's it, but you don't matter. You personally don't matter. And going through everything I went through has really ingrained that into me, and I pray I never lose it. The other thing it did is it definitely gave me a sense of do or die. That's what made me an
Oh yeah.
entrepreneur. I had nothing to lose. So many people don't become entrepreneurs because they don't want to lose things. They don't want to lose the opinion of their friends. They don't want to lose the approval of their parents. They don't want to lose the opportunity of going and getting a degree. They're afraid of losing things, but I had nothing. I had nothing to lose. So this was my last shot, and it's what made me take the leap. And had I not gone through all the things I went through, I would have had sports to lose, friends to lose, maybe girls to lose, but I didn't have any of those things. So I had nothing to lose and everything to gain, and that made me take the leap into entrepreneurship. So those dark times, they created the light later on. I'm very, very grateful for them.
100%. And I feel like if you didn't go through that, you would have been like you would have been too comfortable to really have the drive to want to make a change and want to do big things in entrepreneurship.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you've fully gotten over it?
Hmm. No, probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's something that really takes a long time. And you
Yeah, I
can't
don't
expect.
think it's something you ever completely get over. Like the things that happen to you never completely leave you. They only completely leave you when you die. You don't get to
Yeah.
they don't just not have happened to you. One day you wake up and you're like, "Oh, no, that didn't happen to me." It's like, no, everything you went through, you went through. So you never completely lose it. And I don't think you need to. A lot of people want to like forget about the things they went through. They want to forget about the person they used to be. To me, that's motivation. It's like remember where you used to be, remember what you went through, remember all those things. Like that's what you're here to do is to make sure that you never go back to that and that other people can get out of that. I heard Ed Milet talk about serving, it might have been Dan Martell, I don't know, but it was one of them that were talking about serving the person that you used to be. That's your purpose. Your
Yeah.
purpose is to transform and then it's to help others transform in a similar way. So, yeah, no, I don't think I've completely gotten over a lot of the things I have, but through a lot of prayer, a lot of just growing my relationship with God and knowing that those things don't even really matter in his eyes in the first place, that's been all the peace that I could need, to be honest with you.
Mhm. Sure. Some Something said that I really liked was, I'm not too sure if I'm saying this 100% correctly, but it was you want to help people get intoxicated with the idea of simplicity. Could you explain that a bit more?
I want to help people get intoxicated with the idea of simplicity.
Yeah.
Very well said. I don't think I said that, but that's probably better than whatever I said. I like that though. Yeah, it's good. Simple scales, fancy fails. Um, most entrepreneurs don't get the 10K a month because they have too much complexity in their minds and in their life. And
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, if you want to be great, even if you just want to be successful, there are only two types of complexities that we have, right? We have personal complexity, we have professional complexity. And if you want to be a great entrepreneur, you have to get rid of one of these. Or if you want to be great personally or professionally, you have to give up one of these. So if I want to be great
Yeah.
professionally, I need to give up my personal complexity. If I want to be great personally, I need to give up my professional complexity. If I want to have the best life in the world and travel and surf and meet women and go blah 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 blah. I can't do that while trying to build a massive tech startup that's going to change the world. If I want to
Yeah.
build a tech startup that's going to change the world, I can't be going to the beach and surfing every day, meeting all these women, like partying and having sick YouTube vlogs filmed about how great my life is. I get to choose one or the other. And most people aren't willing to give up one in order to attain the other. And that's the idea of sacrifice. Sacrifice is my favorite word in the English language. It's to give up one thing in order to gain another thing. And so simplicity really doesn't come from doing the right things, it comes from not doing the wrong things. To decide is to cut away from. Day means from, and then sadir means to cut. So decide is to cut away. A decision is a cutting away of another thing. So what we have to ask ourselves as people who want to grow is what do I need to cut off in order to gain the things that I want? What do I need to give up in order to gain? What do I need to let go of in order to transform and become the person I want to be? A lot of times it's the really simple shit, but we don't give it up. We know we need to give up social media. We know we need to stop watching porn. We know we need to stop drinking alcohol. We know we need to stop doing all these things, but yet we don't. And then the question, Samuel, is why? Why won't we give it up? And it's because, quite frankly, we don't want it bad enough. We're too comfortable. We're too weak as a society. We're too acceptable of the word average. I hate it. It's my least favorite word. My least favorite word
Bro,
in
the
the
name of
English
this podcast,
dictionary
Reject
is
Mediocrity.
love it. Let's freaking go. Reject mediocrity. Reject average. Fear average by all costs. It's it's the antithesis of everything that I hope to stand for. And unfortunately, as a society, we've become too acceptable of that. And Friedrich Nietzsche has a quote where he says, "The man who has a strong enough why can bear almost any how." So really, what
Yeah.
you at the root of all of this is figuring out your why. Because if I told you whatever your goal is right now, think about what your goal is. 10K a month, 100K a month, 100,000 podcast views, whatever it is. Think about your goal. If I said you have 12 months to achieve that goal or your life is over, what would you do? What would you give up to achieve that goal? Who would you become to achieve that goal? What would you let go of? What would you sacrifice? What would you do day in and day out to achieve that goal? 100K a month, 200K a month, whatever it is. You would treat it like your life is on the line because it would be. But yet you wake up every day and you act like you're going to have infinite wake ups. One day you're not going to wake up. One day you're going to die. Steve Jobs, another quote: if you live every day like it's your last, one day you surely will be right. This life is impermanent. This life is finite. And one day you're going to lose it. So what do you want to do while you're here? That's what I try to think about when it comes to letting go of these things I know are bad for me and doing the things I know are hard but are good for me and for society. One day I'm not going to be here. So what do I need to sacrifice to reject mediocrity at all costs?
That's so true, man. And I forget where I heard this quote, but it was the number one thing that you'll have to sacrifice if you want a life you love will be the life that you like.
It's good. Very good. Love that.
Yeah, so what have you had to sacrifice? Like besides the obvious bad habits like drinking, weed, porn, like all that stuff. Like what are some of the quote unquote good things that you've had to sacrifice to achieve your goals?
Woo! Good things that I've had to sacrifice. Comfort zone. Some people would consider that a good thing. It's fun, right?
Yeah.
Getting outside of my comfort zone. I think relationships with family has been a really tough thing. Not completely, like I'm not like, Hermosi level where I'm like, I don't want to see my family for Christmas. But maybe clip that part out. But um but hey, we still got the acquisition.com hats in the back. But I
Gotta
have
get
had to yeah, I have had to let go of some of my relationships to some extent. Getting just too involved in like other people's complaining and problems, and like if it's real actual problems, then I'm there for them. I got to be there. But when it's these things that don't really matter, I'm like, I have like team members that I need to help them pay their bills this month, and you're
yeah.
talking to me about baby mama drama. Like, I'm good. I don't care. So like letting go of those people that I care about, um because I need to focus more on the people that I actually am responsible for. And that's my job as a leader, right? So that's been big for me. Um, yeah, I would say some of the things I love, like surfing. Like I moved away from the beach because I would just surf like so much. Like I would go to the beach and be a complete beach bum, and I love that. But it's not what I'm here for. I'm not put on this planet to surf. I'm put on this planet to serve, and there's an important difference. So little things like that are scattered throughout my life that I've had to give up for sure.
For sure. And I think a lot of the time I think what's holding people back from achieving their goals is things that they're still holding on to that might be good, but don't align with their long-term vision.
Yeah.
So it's just really good to be mindful of like where you want to be long term, and then what you have to do to get there, and then just letting everything else off, like you said.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So since you started entrepreneurship, how have your beliefs about money and about business changed?
I used to think that money was the most important resource in the world.
Yeah.
I now realize time and attention are the most important resources in the world, at least I believe. And I've come to realize that money, and this is directly from Ray Dalio, probably the one of the greatest investors of our time, runs the most
Yeah.
successful I think the most successful hedge fund or some sort of fund. He runs one of the most successful funds in the world. And he wrote the book on a lot of interesting things, but he gave this amazing definition of money. He says, money is just a means of exchange or a storehold of value. Meaning all money actually is it's a storehold of value. It's not value in itself. It's storing potential value. Or it's a means of exchange. I can trade you my money for a resource. But money in itself is actually not valuable. So the game really isn't how do I attain a bunch of money. The game you're actually trying to play is how do I attain the resource that I hopefully one day will exchange money for. And it's almost always
Yeah.
time. Freedom. I want freedom. I want to give up my money for locational freedom, time freedom, whatever it is. And that's really shifted my mindset around like, what am I playing the game for? Am I playing to have a lot of numbers in a bank account that are valueless in themselves? Right? Like, it's a house has value. It's putting a roof over my head. It's protecting me. $1 million in the bank
Yeah.
doesn't have value for me, not directly, but I can transfer it. I can exchange it for a form of value. So it made me go directly to the source. If I'm playing the game for time, if that's what I really want, let me focus on making more time, not making more money. That's one way. And then the other thing is impact. Impact is what I actually want, not money. I want lots of impact. And money enables me to have more impact. But I can start having impact now, even though, like, right, my net worth, a lot of people want their net worth up here. They want their impact, they want their income up here. They want their impact down here. Or they say they want their impact up here. But really, all their time's going into money, money, money. None of their time's going into impact. So I shifted and I said, all right, well, I do want income, but I also want impact. So what if I have to counterbalance it a little bit and get them both at the same level? But this is what I say I really want anyway. So I should be willing to give up some income in order to get the impact. And that's just an energy shift. That's why I started my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel has not made me any money. It's lost me money. It's lost me
Yeah.
a lot of money, right? I pay videographers every month. I pay editors every month. I don't even have AdSense set up because I'm freaking lazy. I'm probably missing out on lots of money from YouTube. I don't do coaching. I like every now and then we'll do a 1 hour consult with somebody, but for the most part, I try to turn down coaching, turn down all that stuff. There's no course, there's nothing. So my YouTube channel has lost me a lot of money and I've had to give up some income, but I've been able to increase my impact and this is more fulfilling to me anyway. And this is what I say I really want. So why not give up the thing I claim to not really want for the thing I actually want? And it's because the appeal of this over here, it's so strong, it's so addicting, it's so satisfying to our pride that most people aren't willing to let it go. They're not willing to give it up. I don't remember what your actual question was, but there's a rant.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was just asking you how your like beliefs about money and business changed, and yeah, great answer,
Okay, yeah.
man.
Glad the question wasn't like, what was your relationship with your mom? And then I'm talking about impact and income.
Yeah, well,
All right,
I
cool.
think in terms of your YouTube and your content, it's like yeah, you like lost money now, but it's such a long-term thing, and like if you stick with it for the long term, which you will, you're 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 gonna be making a crazy amount of money as well as impacting a ton of people. And something that I've really noticed about you, like consuming your content and doing research for this podcast, is that you have such a long-term mindset, which I think is an amazing trait to have.
Mm,
Where does that come
thank you.
from?
The long-term mindset definitely doesn't come from anything innately in me. We are programmed and
Yeah,
wired as human beings to crave instant gratification, to look for our desires to be immediately filled. And I was always that. I was always giving into whatever the instant pleasure was, the sugary food, the late night of video games, the giving into lust or whatever, just giving into like instant dopamine hits. So it's something I've had to train. It's not something I don't think I specifically was born with. It's something I had to train. And I think I'll tell you this, Samuel. So recently I heard a Warren Buffett quote that I loved. He said, "Most people are just not good at learning from other people's experiences." And he said, "Me and Charlie Munger, his business partner, he said, me and Charlie just happen to be good at learning from other people. And I think that's so profound because all the answers are right there. Like right now, you might have just heard me say that. Somebody might have just heard me say that and it clicked for them. And then somebody else might have heard me say that and they're just in the back of their mind, how's he like what's get me to 10K a month? Like it didn't even click. He didn't even attain that the data set that was just put into his mind, right? So I think for me, what I've been very fortunate of is that I've been humble enough to want to learn from every single person I talk to. And so when I think about people like Warren Buffett or Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, I am so excited to learn from them. I need to learn from them. I'm like, I crave the knowledge that they have that I lack, right? So where I was going with that is the long term mindset didn't come from me. It came from studying people that I looked up to, trusted, and respected that said, hey, dude, do this. Think long term. Jeff Bezos' first letter to shareholders ever at Amazon was written in 1997, and it was titled, It's All About the Long Term. I remember reading that as an 18-year-old kid and just my entire mindset shifting. Not because of anything I did, but because of the information, the experience that Jeff Bezos had. And I was just humble enough and interested enough to listen. Michael Jordan said, those who don't listen don't survive. So if you're not listening, and I'm not just saying this because I'm the one talking right now, but if you're not listening, you're not going to last. So that's where the long-term mindset came from. It didn't come from me. It came from listening to other people who knew better than I did and just being humble enough and interested enough to actually listen.
That's so true. And something that I've learned recently with my business has been like if you want to see success in anything, you have to be willing to lose for a long time. Like lose for the next 5, 10 years. And most people just aren't willing to do that. And I think that's one of the reasons why Jeff Bezos was so successful with Amazon.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, like the company was willing to just lose for longer than anyone else.
He started Amazon in 1994, if I'm not mistaken. I just looked up when they actually became profitable. They didn't become profitable until 2003.
Holy shit.
9 years. 9 years without making a dollar of profit. 9 years. Most people won't go 9 months. That's why most people don't win. That's why 90% of entrepreneurs fail. The information's right in front of us, guys. We just have to decide, what do we want to do with it? Do we want to keep following what all these gurus are preaching on the internet, you can get rich in 30 days, or do we want to listen to the people who actually have proven it? Conventional wisdom is usually wrong. Conventional wisdom is this belief that, number one, it's hard to get rich, it's impossible to get rich, and there's also this other conventional wisdom, which is you can get rich quick. So it's like these weird dichotomies of like it's impossible over here, and then over here it's easy. Usually, the answer, the truth, is somewhere in between. So yes, you can get rich, but it's hard. It's not easy. It doesn't take 30 days. It takes a heck of a lot of work, a lot of effort, and a lot of time. I've been doing this for over 5 years, since I was 17 years old. I built 5 SMMAs back to back to back to back to back. They all ended up shutting down or failing in some way, or I got kicked out of the partnership every time. And it took my sixth SMA to finally hit 7 figures. And then I built an eighth one and I did it again in 90 days. So people would look at my eighth agency or my seventh agency and they'd say, dude, you got rich quick. You did it overnight. But they don't see the 5 years previous of five back to back to back to back to back failures and then a sixth struggle of trying to build up a company and earning the right to be able to scale quickly. So, uh, yeah, it's yeah. So I'll add that on.
Yeah, what did those 5 failures teach you?
Good question, Samuel. I think it's very easy to say I'm not good at something without ever putting in the actual work to deserve to be able to say that. Like you can't just say I'm not good at sales if you haven't taken 1,000 sales calls.
Yeah.
It's easy to say I'm not good at podcasting if you haven't done 100 podcasts. It's easy to say I'm not good at whatever is required, Facebook ads, technology, ops. It's easy to say that before you've actually put in the work to do it and to earn the right to say, all right, I have enough data here. I've put my all into this. Am I good or am I bad? Well, look at the data. I'm bad. Okay. But you got to get the data first, right? Shaq can say he's a bad free throw shooter because he shot a lot of free throws. So Shaq's goal is not to get to the free throw line, it's to dunk the ball. But he can't say he's a bad free throw shooter if he's only shot 2 free throws. It's not fair. It's disingenuous. So I think for me, I learned that I was taking the easy way out and saying, I'm not good at sales. I don't like sales. I don't want to do the hard things in the business, but you have to do the hard things. You have to do the hard things. That's what makes great entrepreneurs great. Good entrepreneurs, they'll be good because they get really good at doing the things that they like. They become really good at the easy things. They're great at designing the funnels. They're great at making the YouTube videos. They're great at those things. But they never become great at the hard things. Managing, leading, facing the uncomfortable truths of the business, making the hard decisions. All of those things, that's what I'm learning till this day right now. I'm learning management lessons and leadership lessons and strategy lessons and having crucial conversations, and that's my life right now. It's like going through all of that and facing the hard things. I think that's the biggest thing I learned is you have to face the hard things head on.
Sure, and something that I heard from Alex Ramsey was like some of the most important skills aren't hard skills like sales or marketing. They're skills like being patient or being disciplined.
Hmm.
And, and and those can often be more important than skills people look at as skills, like sales, for example. Or,
Yeah.
I don't know, like coding.
Yeah. I would agree 100%.
Yeah. So something that you said in the video was you don't feel good about leading a seven-figure team if you aren't a seven-figure human being. Could you
Yeah.
explain that a bit more?
Yeah. If I am acting like a six-figure human being or a broke human being, then it's hard for me to feel deserving of leading a team. And what I meant specifically when I said that, the example I used is like, dude, if I'm jerking off every day and eating terrible food and not going to the gym and being lazy, I don't feel good about leading other people. I haven't led
Yeah.
myself. So that's really what I meant by it is until you can lead yourself, you really don't deserve to lead others. And that's been a hard lesson that I've learned the hard way.
Yeah. And I think it's really just about self-respect. Like if you do those things, you're not going to respect yourself.
Right.
And if you don't respect yourself, then other people aren't going to respect you.
Well said, man. Very, very well said. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said that the purpose of life is to cultivate self-respect, and the meaning of it is to pass on to others.
I said that before I found God. I
Before you found
retract
God.
that statement.
Why is
Um,
that?
because I don't think the purpose of life is to find self-respect. I don't think the purpose, I don't, I think that was just glib speech that I thought sounded smart.
Yeah.
And I think there's truth to the idea that you should learn how to respect yourself. I don't necessarily think it's wrong, but I think the way in which you actually find self-respect, right, is understanding who you actually are. And you can't do that unless you understand why you're here. And if you think you're here by complete accident and complete coincidence, then what is there really to understand? Like you can't understand yourself. You don't even understand why you're here. You don't even understand why this earth exists. You can't understand anything because the foundation of understanding is broken, right? So you're just creating your own ideas, your own understandings, and you're playing your best guessing game. And you could say having faith is a guessing game too, and in a way it is, right? Like you nobody knows for sure, but we know the foundation of faith leads to an explanation of who you actually are and why you're actually here. And so I think the purpose now that I would say is the purpose of life is to serve and love God. Serve and love God. And that's what I think we're here for. And I would hear that when I was an atheist. And I would hear people say that. I'm like, dude, why would God create us just to serve him and love him? That doesn't make any freaking sense. Like, why would a God do that? And what I've realized as time has gone on is God does not want us to serve him and love him for his sake. He knows that we need to do it for our sake. The best I've ever felt in my life, the most fulfilled I've ever felt in my life was when I was worshiping God, when I was surrendering things to God, when I was praising God. It's weird. I can't explain it. If you can relate to it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, then you're like, this dude's loco. What the heck is he talking about? But it's the most pure feeling I've ever felt in my life. So that's what I would say the purpose of life is. And self-respect is involved, but really ultimately we're trying to serve God and respect God, not ourselves. Did Jesus respect himself when he was hanging on the cross? I don't know. Perhaps you could say yes because he was God, but ultimately he wasn't doing it he wasn't doing it out of self-respect. In fact, it was self-abnegation. It was self-denial. It was self-sacrifice that led him to that cross because of how much he respected God, how much he loved God. And of course he was God incarnate, but he was the Son, and God the Father is why he did it. In fact, he was praying on his knees in the middle of the woods before it happened. He said, God, if you can carry this cup from me, right? Like if you can take this cup from me, don't make me be crucified. Like he was praying like if this is something I can get out of, then please. But then he said at the end, not my will be done, but your will be done. Because he respected God more than he respected himself. He loved God more than he loved himself. And the beauty of that verse is that he's giving an example to all of us. When Jesus prayed, people would say, why would God pray to God? The reason he was doing that is to set an example for us. Look at this difficult thing. He's literally facing death, right? He's facing death, and it's something he doesn't want to do. Like you and I can relate to. We do things we don't want to do, but he was willing to sacrifice and do it anyway because he said, in the end, not my will be done, but your will be done. And I think that's the respect we're looking for, is to truly respect and love God, not to respect and love ourselves. Not that we shouldn't, but that's not what we're here for. We're not here to serve ourselves. We're here to serve something greater than ourselves. And yeah, so I would say serve and love God, and what that looks like is serving and loving God's people. If you love God, you love his people. If you love me, you'll keep my commandments. That's what Jesus said. And what was his greatest commandment to us? You'll love the Lord your God with all your heart, and then you love others as I have loved you. So that's my theological rant, my rant on purpose now. That's what I believe.
Yeah, well, Jesus respected and served God. And I think that led to him respecting himself. Like he wouldn't respect himself if he didn't
Hmm.
respect and serve God.
Well said. Yeah, well said.
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, what led you to finding God?
Whew. We got enough time? It's a long one, man.
A
It's
couple
a
more
long
minutes,
one.
then I'm gonna ask the last question.
Yeah, I'll make a video about this one day, going deep and just kind of sharing. But I started going really, really nihilistic. I started getting really deep into Buddhism, Stoicism, nihilism. Nihilism means nothing matters. Nihil means nil, nothing, and nihilism is nothingness. So nothing matters. That's what a nihilist believes.
Yeah.
And I started to go down that path, and it was destroying me. I mean, I was like, well, what am I doing this for? If nothing matters, why am I even waking up every day? If nothing matters, why am I building a business? If I actually believe nothing matters, how am I so easily deceiving myself as if these things do matter? And I was watching a lot of Hermosi at the time. I was looking up to a lot of these business gurus, and I was convincing myself that nothing mattered. And it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. It's such a dangerous worldview, because if nothing matters and you tell yourself that nothing matters, then you're planting a seed in your subconscious that things that actually do matter don't. Meaning how you treat other people, crime, morality. right? Purpose. Like if these things don't actually matter, the way you treat your family, the way you treat your friends, the way you act, the way you hold yourself as a human being, being honest, telling the truth, loving people, acting right, being a civil human being, not running somebody over, not crossing, not rear-ending somebody, like just anything that we would deem as wrong. That sounds so simple, so obvious. Like, yeah, obviously that's wrong. But if nothing matters, then morality doesn't matter. Right and wrong don't matter because nothing matters. If nothing matters, that means nothing matters. But what the nihilists actually do, and I say this as somebody who was a nihilist, they choose the things that they actually do think matter, and then they say, well, these things matter, but then everything else doesn't. And that's the whole philosophy is, well, nothing matters, so choose what matters to you. But what if what matters to me is world domination? What if what matters to me is making as much money as possible, no matter what it does to other human beings? If that's what matters to me, why wouldn't I go out and just rob people every single day? What's stopping me from committing rape and doing evil things? Like, what's stopping me from any wrong thing if nothing matters? And when I ask myself that question, I realize there's no logical answer. There's no logical answer. And so I had to ask myself, well, does nothing actually matter? Or perhaps does something actually matter? And somewhere in my heart, I know that. I know the way I treat you, Samuel, matters. I know the way that I treat other human beings matter. I know your life matters. It'd be foolish for me to say it doesn't. So then I'd ask myself, why? Why do I think things matter? Why do I think life has inherent meaning and that your life is valuable and that my life is valuable? Where does that come from if we're all here by accident? It wouldn't make logical sense if we're all here by accident. 99.9% of species go extinct. If we just got here randomly, we're going to be we're going to fit into that data point one day. And I think we will either way, even though I believe in God. I think we will become part of the 99.9% that go extinct. One day human beings will not be here. I just think it's going to happen a very specific way. And so if I believe that we're just going to go extinct one day, then who cares what happens? Why not go just live the best worldly life you can at the expense of others? We're all going to go extinct. It doesn't really matter anyway. We're all going to die, end up in the same place. And so that battle of nihilism led me to realize that either that's the truth and life sucks if that's the truth. Like it is miserable. It is complete and utter nothingness. It is pure just sorrow, pointlessness. Every day you wake up, why am I here? Why does this like it's just terrible. It's terrible. But that led to me seeking God. And the Bible says, seek and you shall find, ask and you shall receive, knock and it shall be open to you. In Jeremiah chapter 29, it says, and the Lord said, you will seek me and you will find me when you seek me with all of your heart. Because my heart was so broken by this nihilism that I deceived myself of, I decided to seek God with all of my heart. Like, if you're there, show me. If you're there, speak to me. And he revealed himself to me, and he's continued to do it, and it's changed my life in ways that I never would have guessed, never would have understood, and I'm beyond grateful for it. So that's a bit of what led to me changing my beliefs so drastically.
That's really good, man. Yeah. And kind of tying into what you were saying before about nihilism, I think everybody has a god or everybody has something that they worship. But the
Yeah.
thing is, most people's god isn't God. It's something like money, fame, or status. They're just
Yeah.
worshiping the wrong thing. And that's what's making their life worse and making them unhappy.
Yeah, I mean, God by definition just means supreme power. So if you look up God, one of the definitions is a supreme power um, that we worship, right? And that's money for most people. It's the supreme power that they worship. Money is most people's God. I heard a preacher say in Miami, he said God's number one competitor is money. And it was very eye-opening as an entrepreneur who does want to make a lot of money. It was very eye-opening to hear him say that.
For sure. So I know that you got to run in a couple minutes, but I
Yeah.
just want to ask the last question that I've been asking a lot of the guests that come on this podcast. So,
Okay.
when you die, what do you want to be remembered for?
Whew. Hmm. I used to think about that a lot because I was so afraid of death and I wanted to be remembered so bad. And now I don't really care. Like I don't care about what I'm remembered for. I care about what I do and knowing that I did it. And what matters to me the most is serving others. I want to impact as many people as I can. I want to become the best version of myself possible so that I can help other people do the same thing. I want to live, as Paul says, I want to be a living sacrifice for God. And that's what I want. If that's all I'm remembered for, like, hey, he transformed his entire life with God's help. He built up businesses and capital and all of these things so he could help God's kingdom. If that is what I do, if I do nothing else with my life, right? If that's all I'm remembered for, then amen, good. Let's go. Like that's it. What am I nobody's going to remember me anyway. So,
Yeah.
serving God, I would say, and just committing myself to the transformation that is available in Jesus Christ and putting faith in him, transforming who I am. Thus, so I can, as he says, be the light of this world so that my Father in heaven can be glorified in all my good deeds. Um, yeah.
Love it, man. That's awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This
Thank you,
was
brother.
such a pleasure to have a chat with you, and yeah, hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, man.
That was a great talk.
I appreciate you, dude. Have a great
Of
day.
course,
Have a
man.
great week. Much love.
You too, man.
See you, brother. Ciao.